Welcome to the Dateable AF podcast, because women dating women is wild, wonderful, and occasionally a disaster. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Kyle, a therapist in private practice.
And I'm your co-host, Rachel Howell, researcher extraordinaire.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 14 of the Dateable AF podcast. Today, our title is Gaydar 2.0, How We Actually Know Who's Queer These Days. So telling who's queer used to be straightforward. Now, half the straight women have undercuts and Doc Martens, and half the lesbians look like Peloton instructors. So let's talk about how Gaydar survived this rebrand. You know that feeling when you clock someone in a crowd and your brain whispers, is that one of us? Well, it turns out there's actual psychology and a little magic behind how queer people recognize each other.
Well, I will. Can I comment on the Peloton instructor thing?
You sure can. You can comment on anything you want.
Because you are so right. And I have a few Peloton instructors that I'm sorry, but they look like straight women for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they are Chicha La Bamba out.
And they bat for our team?
They bat for our team. They even talk about their wives during the thing. I'm like, and they're wearing all the
aloe and Lululemon.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure that all they have is natural right up in here.
Oh, that could be. That could be. I think the gays are allowed to get some augmentation if they want to.
Gays used to not get the augmentation.
Doesn't fit in a sports bra too well.
If anything, the gays want to whack it off. They don't want to enhance.
Exactly. Tell me, girl.
They're tripping us up.
That's right. That's right. So I do think that this idea of gaydar has had to evolve, because it used to be something, I don't know, maybe stereotype based, or at least intuition based. I think there used to be these sort of fixed cultural codes about who was gay and who wasn't. And I think those things have changed in 2025.
They have. And they're definitely the gaydar. I mean, the term, I don't hear it used as much.
Nope.
And so I don't know if it's because it's really gone out, although we always are trying to identify people out there.
Yep. Of course. Like, does she go to our church?
So it still exists.
Yes.
But I just don't know that term is really fitting anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right that it probably doesn't, because, we say queer as an umbrella more now. But I do think there is something important about queer people being able to recognize each other. And that's not as easy now, because I think now it's very trendy for everyone to be a little bit fluid or maybe a little bit ironic. So, yeah, I think it's harder to tell these days.
Yes, out there it was, you cut your hair a certain way. Wait, you have a mullet and you wear a flannel shirt.
The mullet.
And the flannel shirt. Now, I didn't have a mullet. I'm just going to say that.
I've never known you to have a mullet, so I
didn't
accept that.
I
had a modified mullet when I was in high school.
A modified mullet? Was that
like
for
business in the front, party in the back?
Was that your first? That was probably your first little clue. You're dropping little breadcrumbs.
I know, but all girls had them, so I don't really think that was it. But we had the perm in the back. We had short bangs and then kind of permed the back of our hair. It was a bad look.
Well, I had a perm too, but I wasn't doing the full, Billy Ray Cyrus thing. I wasn't boogieing all the way.
So I do have to tell something about Jo, that she has this picture. It was a work-related picture from her career. And my cousin was over one time and he saw the picture and he said, "Oh my God, Jo looks just like Michael Landon." And I don't know if our listeners remember Michael Landon, but he was the dad on Little House on the Prairie. And so my cousin found a picture of Michael Landon and made a side-by-side of Jo with her Michael Landon. And they do look remarkable, I have to say.
Well, he was very good looking.
I'm not sure that's going to make Jo feel any better, but yep. You look just like the dad on Little House on the Prairie.
Well, Michael Landon has a daughter that is now playing on, she played Teeter in Yellowstone.
That's Michael Landon's daughter?
I think so. And she is HOT. And I think,
well,
not on our team.
I can't get on board with her. I'm going to have to see her in a different role because that accent, that fake country accent, I can't do it.
Google her. You might even throw Robin Richards over for her.
Robin Roberts.
Robin Roberts, sorry.
Don't misname her.
I'm sorry.
That's sacrilegious.
So back to the whole recognizing gay people. I part of this that's really interesting to me is people's problem with not wanting to pigeonhole somebody, and versus the desire to actually identify like kind.
Yep. I think that's true. And I think if we look back to sort of the origins of gaydar, I mean, the term is basically, it's like a shorthand way to describe this intuition or these nonverbal cues that people used to use to identify other queer people. And it was necessary in earlier times because like now, I mean, we live in Austin, and I know that there are still some parts of the country where gay people are not that readily accepted. But for the most part, you know, being gay is not shocking to anyone anymore, and it's pretty accepted. And so it's okay to be out, or it's more okay to be out. But during the time when that wasn't okay, we had to look for cues. We had to look to see if you wore flannel or drove a Subaru or had a mullet. So all of those things.
Yes, I have a story when I went to college.
Do tell.
I had one, experience with a woman in 10th grade, and then she left me because she was a senior and went on. And there I was stuck in high school knowing that I wanted to be with the ladies, that I didn't know anybody to tell or talk to there. When I reflect back now, some of those people would have made sense to me. But anyway, I couldn't wait to go to college, and I was a sporting girl playing sports. And so I knew that I could find my people, or that they would find me
on the sports teams
or in the dorms, because the sporty girls lived in an athletic dorm. And I thought, I could not wait. And there was a bar, and this is hilarious because I didn't have a mullet, but there was a bar we would go to right after tennis practice. All the softball players would go there too. And we would drink as many quarter beers as we could jam down in a certain amount of time before we had to go study. And
that was helpful.
And said, I think that was my 2-0 year, maybe. Anyway, I was shooting pool, and I look up, and an entire wall of softball lesbians were lined up, just hawking me.
And watching you shoot pool?
Watching me shoot pool. And I know. And, obviously the gaydar was going off. I was a sporty girl. And immediately they came up to me and started chatting me up.
Yeah.
And and I could tell. I'm like, oh, yeah, because some of them did have a mullet. And they're softball players. And so I will say there was some, yeah. And, but I was so happy. And they invited me to my first lesbian party that night. They didn't tell me I was going to a lesbian party. They just said, we have a private party. Would you like to go?
Private party. For the ladies only. So you found your people right away.
Ooh, we found each other like little radar.
Yep, absolutely. So, do you see any potential problems with kind of that old school gaydar?
I don't. I mean, now, yes, because you're right that I think people are so much more fluid in their dress, the way they wear their hair, also what they participate in. I just feel like we have a much bigger box now of gay folks that are living very different ways out.
I think
so. Yes. True. Yeah, I can see that. I also, though, do feel like there's this great value. Like that was a great moment for me to find people who made me feel safe, that I knew for the first time that I could be myself with. And so that was also a super important thing for me.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So what were some of the things that we would look for back then? I mean, we kind of jokingly mentioned like mullets and flannel, but what other things might clue you into whether someone would be interested in dating women or not?
Well, I think softball players was back then was the thing.
Okay.
And, I played tennis, and it was not as prevalent in the tennis community.
Okay.
Just generally. So sports, female sports tends to, a lot of women there. And then I also do think back then, for sure, there was more stereotypical dressing, jeans and the way you would wear your hair, and also just sort of how you carried yourself.
Yeah, I think that's true too. Like there is a certain air, but I think there were also little subtle clues that people would do. You might wear something tiny that had a rainbow logo on it, or things like that. Now that is definitely not a clue, because I have tons of friends who are allies who are not queer identified at all, who might have like an Apple Watch with a rainbow band, or who might wear a pride shirt. And so you can't always base it off of that now, but back in the day, nobody was going to be wearing a rainbow if they weren't gay.
Mm-mm.
So we did have to look for those little clues. So nowadays, now that things are more ambiguous, and now that queer people feel comfortable being more visible, what are some ways that people are kind of queer coding now, like maybe with regard to fashion or tattoos or language or things like that? What might be some ways people would show that they were queer?
I think the tattoos, also you do see a lot of stickers, which opens up conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's also sort of the difference here, is that before you were trying to come in the back door to figure something out, and you were not comfortable necessarily just saying, "Oh, hey, I noticed your gay sticker." And so, because oftentimes you were kind of scared to just put that out. If you were wrong, it could go bad. Mm-hmm. Now, I think because we do have a lot of allies, like you said, who have gay stickers on their car, they wear rainbow things, T-shirts, and support. But that's a great conversation opener, and just saying, "Hey, are you an ally?" Or see that you have a gay shirt on, whatever. I think now I don't hesitate to say anything, because I do live in Austin, and I don't worry about it.
Yeah. Oh, I just thought of another one that was kind of old school. There was a sticker that you got if you joined the political organization, the Human Rights Campaign.
Yeah.
And it was a blue sticker with a yellow equal sign on it. So it wasn't blatantly rainbow, but it was one of those kind of, if you know, things. And so you always kind of knew if someone had that HRC sticker on their car, that they were secretly letting you know they were gay without being as out as having a rainbow. So that was another good one.
Yeah. There was also, when I think back, I knew a lot of feminists that were very, Gloria Steinem, out there feminist. And and oftentimes those things would cross over.
Yeah. So someone might be just displaying allyship, or they might be displaying something about feminism that wasn't necessarily about being gay. So yeah. So anyway, these days, I think it's a little trickier. One of the things that people use now as a way to sort of come out, or way to identify, is hashtags that they put on their Instagram or their TikTok. So the hashtag WLW, Women Who Love Women, is a common one that's, again, a little bit under the radar, because if you don't know what that means, you wouldn't pick up on it. But yes, I think, any hashtags that have to do with queer or gay or things like that, people often will put that in a string of hashtags. So it's another way of kind of looking for it.
Yes. And if you look at Dateable AF, I always hashtag with WLW, women love women. Yeah.
Yep.
So back to the Gaydar and how people, read profiles, playlists. So it's kind of the digital Gaydar clue. I think is interesting as well. I mean, we didn't have that back then, so it's another way for people to, and you look at social media, people will post, I see HRC like on their profile, a post or a rainbow flag or just all those subtle ways.
Yep. The other thing is people look at who other people are following. So if I look at you and you're following a bunch of lesbians, I'm like, oh, yep, gay girl. So that's another subtle clue that, I mean, maybe you're not gay, but if you're not, why are you following all these lesbians on social media? So
I might be a gay wannabe.
You're a wannabe. Exactly. So sometimes, though, that can go a little south on you because, like, sometimes Joe and I will laugh. We'll see someone and we'll be like, do you think she's a lesbian or do you think she's just like a country gal? Because, because sometimes, you see a gal, she looks kind of corn-fed. She's wearing some Wranglers and, you just can't tell. And so you don't want to assume.
It is. It's a violation because if you go to the Midwest, you travel around the Midwesters, and I feel like I am surrounded by lesbians, and they're horsewomen.
And then they refer to their husband, and you don't know what to think.
I did.
That's right.
It's the only place I have excellent Gaydar. I'm just going to say that. I have rarely ever missed, even the Gaydar that picks up they're not necessarily a lesbian, but that they've been with a woman before. I can even, they've dabbled, but I get in the Midwest and I am lost. They're so confused. My Gaydar is just shooting off all. This is not right.
You have a horse and a husband? What?
My business partner, I would do a shout out to one of Copia's folks, Christina Steiner, who is a lovely heterosexual woman that is a horsewoman. Probably get a kick out of this. No, she does not. She doesn't. But I know that I am sure she would get a laugh out of this because I know that she's out there in that horse world. And I think a lot of our people hang out there too.
It's because they think everybody's gay, but then they're sadly mistaken.
So we should, I don't know, man, something's wrong about that. I have to do something about that. They need to have to wear a sticker. What's the straight sticker?
A straight sticker. Exactly. You have to identify yourself. Exactly. So I think that there is something really important, though, about recognizing who's in your group. And that could have anything to do with your religion. It could have to do with your race. It could have to do with your sexual orientation. But there's something about humans that we're wired for that in-group recognition. So what we're doing all the time is we're sort of looking for those subtle or not so subtle visual cues or behavioral cues that help us identify and belonging. So it's kind of like if you're walking into, let's say you're at a conference and you look around for where you're going to sit, you're probably going to pick someone that you think is like you to sit next to. That's just a part of what humans do in general. So of course that applies when we're looking around to see who's in the gay group with us.
There's a dear friend of mine, very smart dear friend of mine, and we have this discussion periodically about she really she pushes back on labels. And I feel like labels are important for the very reason that you just mentioned, that there is something innate in us that gravitates towards like kind. Mm-hmm. And they're one, especially in the early years of being gay, but if you live in places that are still tough, you find safety. You're trying to find safety where you can be yourself. But the other thing is just also understanding that I firmly believe that it is good to have a community around you. Both, it doesn't mean you can't have tons of heterosexual friends. I do, you do. It's great. I love to diversify my friendship pool, but it does matter to me to know that I have a core group of women, because as we travel through life, there are just a lot of things that are happening for us that are common, not only in our health, but also as we are partnering and the way that we have our relationships and just all that. So I feel like it matters.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, that doesn't mean that you discriminate against anyone else. It just means that there's a certain comfort level in being around like people. So I think that, there are these little micro behaviors that we pick up on. I don't know if you notice this, but I notice that sometimes lesbians hold eye contact just a hair longer with you than other people might, or there might be some kind of humor that we use with one another, or some kind of shared language that we use with one another that would kind of give us that in-group recognition.
Yeah. I pick it up. They're all definitely there's something that happens in the interaction, and it's more intimate immediately. Typically, the way I find it is they're leaning in a way that is a little different. Oftentimes I think they're trying to see if it's true too. But some of it is inexplicable, frankly, because I get a sense. I just get a sense of it.
Yeah. And if you broke it down, there are probably little specific, like concrete things that you could identify, but it's a whole package. So you can't really narrow it down. But it's just kind of like, you see someone, you're like, oh yeah, yep, I think she plays for our team.
Years ago when I was working for Region 13 and I was traveling with my good friend, Mary Margaret, that you know, and we were with some consultants there, and we were all staying in this B&B, and there was a woman consultant from out of state. And I kept telling Mary Margaret, I'm like, and she's like, no, she was married. She's got a kid. I'm like, and she was like, no way. I know her. I've known her for years. There's not, no. And I'm like, I'm going to bet you that she's kissed a woman. I'm just going to tell you. And I can't tell you why I knew, but I knew. And one night, I crept in there with kind of pushing the button, and she admitted it over dinner.
When you said crept in there, I was like, into her room?
No, I didn't do that. I didn't
just verbally crept in there. I got you.
Oh, I wish I'd had a big bet on that. Mary Margaret almost fell out of her seat when she.
Yep. She's like, how'd you know? And you're like, yeah, you just know these things.
I did. I knew.
Yep, that's true. That is true.
I can even tell when they haven't, but they want to.
Yeah, now that one's more obvious. You're like, girl, you going back home to your husband. This isn't going to go well.
I probably should have said that more in college than I did.
Yep. But I think no matter how things evolve as far as, openness or people being allowed to be out and that is being fine, I think everyone still craves that sort of I see you moment where you get recognized by someone else like that. I think especially in spaces that aren't fully queer, that there's something about that kind of wink and nod, like, oh yeah, I get you.
Yeah, it is. And it's also why going into spaces that are queer feels good too, because we spend a lot of our time in non-queer spaces.
Yeah.
And
most of our time.
And like anybody else, especially if you're trying to date, which is, we're kind of talking about that on this podcast, you're trying to figure out how to meet people, and you're out in predominantly heterosexual environments. That's why I think queer-only spaces, we don't have as many of those anymore, but they are important because it is the one place you walk into where at least 98% chance that whomever it is that you come in contact with has an interest versus trying to, like we're saying, you're looking at people's socials, you're trying to figure out if there's a clue, are they sending you a message? Is this somebody that I can talk to in this way?
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about when gaydar fails? Like, what are the circumstances that you've seen where people, might have misread something?
Well, and I'm in the Midwest. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. Like we talked about, when you're around those corn-fed gals in the Midwest, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. They got the swagger because they ride horses.
They do. Well, I do think that sometimes when you are becoming, women get really close, and that you kind of turn your situation with your best friend into something that you think they're going there with you, but they're not. And that I know plenty of women where that's gone south. And because I think women do naturally kind of get close to you in ways that if you're gay can feel like they're coming over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that often if you're not looking through that lens, like if you're wired to be heterosexual, you perceive that leaning in by your best friend as being, wow, this is a really close friendship. This intimacy we're developing is, just a deep friendship. And if you're gay, you're like, how could this person not pick up on the fact that I was romantically interested? So yeah, those can be, very different lenses. And I think that there are plenty of straight women who, do have a big flannel collection, or, who do like dogs and Subarus. And, it's sometimes that wires get crossed and those things are easy to misread.
Yeah. They like to climb mountains and do all of those things. And
play softball.
Some of them do. I feel sorry for the straight women in softball. So going to say,
yeah,
because
they're in the minority.
They're in the minority.
We're going to get some shit for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're coming in hot. Come on,
yeah, absolutely. But I think there's another sort of gaydar fail, and that is a false negative. And this is something that I experienced back in the day when I first came out. That if you're feminine, like I remember thinking I'm never going to get a date because I had kids, I had long hair. I tried really, really hard to look butch so that I could make sure I got a date. I was like wearing the Doc Martens and cutting my hair and wearing gay shirts. And, I was afraid no one was ever going to realize I was dateable.
Well, I can speak to that. And yes, you tried really hard.
It didn't work, y'all. I wasn't wired to be butch. And now I have short hair, and I still don't think people people most often assume if people ask if I'm married, they'll be like, oh, what does your husband do? So yeah, it's a thing.
That's another one, the short hair. Mm-hmm. I'm fascinated with that because so many, especially gay women, I find, they think that if you have short hair, that is a direct link to being butch. And I'm like, on what planet? Yeah, I find it's fascinating. And to the point of you could shave your head. I'm sorry. I know you want to be butch. Sometimes I know you. I do. I realize that you have tried, and I
have tried,
and it doesn't work.
No,
it doesn't. So that's the other thing is. Whenever I hear my gay sisters saying, I just like a feminine woman. Now I'm like, well, what makes her feminine? Well, she's got long hair. And I'm going, that doesn't make her feminine.
Right. I think also people assume for themselves that if they have long hair, people perceive them as feminine. Like, yes. No one will know I'm gay because I have long hair. It's like, girl, no.
Oh.
That long hair does not change your appearance of being gay. I'm sorry to tell you that.
No.
Anyway,
that woman that always spilled beer on me at the bar that we've talked about before that I hated, she had long hair and she walked like she had been in a saddle for...
Was her name Carol? Does that ring a bell?
No, I think it was Lisa.
Lisa, that's right. It was Lisa. Yep. I wonder if
she's probably listening.
I'm sure she is. We got a lot of listeners out there. Lisa from 1995. She was give us a shout.
And you were spilling beer on me all the time, pissing me off, and Sarah running off and leaving me there. Oh my God. No, so I have encountered plenty of women with long hair who they have very butch mannerisms and very
Yep, absolutely. So if you assume one way or the other, you kind of risk outing someone, or you risk stereotyping someone, or there's also the risk that you're going to invalidate someone's fluid identity. Like if someone doesn't necessarily identify as gay or straight, and you try to pigeonhole them in one of those boxes, then, there's something that could be invalidating about that. So you want to be careful. And just remembering that in today's world, it is okay to wonder, but it's not okay to label. So It's funny because as a therapist, I've been in situations where I would inquire about someone's sexual orientation, and if you say like, are you gay? It kind of puts someone on the spot. But if you say like, oh, are you straight or gay? Then it's sort of like you could pick one. Although nowadays, I think there are lots of other options besides just those two. But you could say, are you straight or queer, perhaps? But if you're asking from a place of curiosity, I think it is okay to wonder about somebody.
That, to your point, that we used to just grapple with, at least we thought we were just grappling with whether or not you're a lesbian or straight. Mm-hmm. And now you really do have to be careful and figure out very decent ways to open a conversation with curious questions, because we have a long alphabet. They are falling all over the continuum. And I think some people may see men or see women and they actually don't love the label that you think belongs to them.
Yep, absolutely. And so, one of the suggested ways that you could ask someone is you could say, are you queer, or do you just have really incredible ally energy? Because that's positive. Regardless of what the answer is, you're giving them a compliment either way.
I've also had people, if I've been in conversation, I say something about a partner or someone I've dated or something like that. I have had people say, oh, tell me about him or her. Tell me, they don't make an assumption of, or they just say, tell me more about the person.
Yep.
And instead of saying the assumption of him.
Yep. Yeah. And on that note, even, if you're talking to a kid, I think it's common, especially for older people, to say, oh, do you have a boyfriend? To a little girl, or do you have a girlfriend, to a little boy? And I think remembering that some even young kids are already starting to grapple with this. And so just making that not a thing, like, do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend? There are a couple of options, or, is there anybody you're interested in? Asking that in some more open-ended ways, I think is helpful no matter who you're talking to.
It is. And for kids, that really is important, because when you do speak with kids in an open-ended situation where you're not saying to them, oh, I'll bet all the boys are just in love with you. There's so many things that are wrong with that. I'm just going to say that. But that open-ended, and when they're young, it sends a message to them at a very young age that they're safe and they're going to be okay. And that is incredibly important, that there are people out there that are not judging them and they're not being slotted, and especially if they already have some idea about themselves.
Yep. Well, and if you think about the flip side of that, even if it's a kid who is going to end up identifying as straight, it normalizes the fact that there are gay people, that there are gay kids, that, it's not assumed that you're going to have a same-sex partner or an opposite-sex partner, that either of those things is a possibility. So that's a helpful framework for anybody to have.
Yes. For all you parents out there that are raising young'uns right now, this is good stuff to think about, because you don't know where your child is going to end up. And the more open they think you are, The more open your conversations are, the more likely they are going to talk to you along the way about what is going on in their journey, whether that be just having sex, beginning to think about that, just all of those things.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely. So let's talk about, in 2025, what are the new markers of queer connection? Since this gaydar idea is, perhaps a little bit outdated, I think the first thing to pay attention to is, are you emotionally resonating with someone? Because that sometimes is a more valuable predictor than aesthetic cues, like whether someone has a mullet or wears flannel. It's like, do you get a sense that you're vibing with each other and that you have that emotional resonance?
Also, if you're here in Austin, you can ask somebody if they've ever been to the 1972 bar.
Hell yeah. That's our friends, Deborah and Marlene, started a very cool space for women, sports bar.
It's a sports bar, and everyone is welcome. But again, it is a place where, because it's a women's focus sports bar, that you find a lot of allies there and a lot of gay people.
Yep.
Gay women.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. And I think that you can also look for, if you meet someone and you're interested in dating them, but you're not sure if they date same sex, you would look for ways that do you have shared humor? Do you have shared politics? What's the energy like between the two of you? Do your values align? Like, some of those things can sort of take the place of what we used to see as gaydar.
Yeah. And then again, I think looking at the social media, oftentimes you can really see a lot in there. And if they have a lot of friends, if they have posted pictures of themselves with women on there.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and looking for that mutual recognition, sort of both people feeling seen. I think those are just really important things. And now, as we said earlier, we have so many online spaces. I mean, even this podcast, for example, we can create sort of a modern definition of gaydar through those spaces and through just sharing stories and shared language. So we're doing it a little bit differently, but it's definitely still out there.
Yeah. And it's important. I think that's the thing is, it's important to not label people in an inappropriate fashion. And it is very important to understand that finding people that resonate with you it's important to have that.
Yes, 100%. Well, let's talk about the takeaways that we want folks to get from this episode, and let's wrap her up.
Okay. Well, we want people to know that gaydar, the word maybe is not right anymore, but it isn't gone. It's just evolved. It's more complicated.
Yeah, it's more nuanced now. And it's less about spotting someone else like across a room and more about just recognizing resonance with someone.
Yeah, and visibility and authenticity and community are the real modern signals.
Yeah. And sometimes the best gaydar is just asking kindly and just being open. So to wrap it up, I would say that in 2025, gaydar isn't really just about guessing who's queer. It's about finding the people who make you feel at home. We would love to hear your funniest stories or your most accurate gaydar stories, or even your best false alarm moments if you have those. So please do send us your gaydar stories. And we really appreciate you listening to our podcast, as always, because the Dateable AF podcast is where we help you find your happy ending.
And remember, be bold, be kind, and for the love of queer dating, don't text your ex. Stay dateable
AF.